Thank you so much for taking the time and giving us the opportunity to talk to you, one about the partnership, but also what we're delivering in that partnership. And what we're hopefully going to get to today, or we will get today, is we're going to involve you. So there'll be some questions and some sort of scenarios we go through. But also we want you to be inspired. Maybe we don't talk about infrastructure and the words inspired close enough as often as we should. The industry is awesome and getting people into it is a trick, but when they're here, they stay. That's just fantastic. But we also want you to be informed because there is things going on which are happening right now that we can take advantage of. The digitization, the future is now, and we can grab it really, really quickly. It's all about decisions. If we make the decision to do it, it will happen. If we decide not to do it, obviously it won't.
Let's get interactive. We told you to get involved, and we're going to use the high specification modicum for interaction, which is your hands in answering questions, please. So we'll start with a little bit of consumer interaction. The last time you went shopping in the supermarket and you bought coffee or tea, if you prefer, what drove your decision to buy the coffee you purchased? I'll give you 4 options. Did you buy on cost? Are you a little shopper, I suppose? Did you buy convenience? You just buy instant coffee because it's all about how quick you can get a cup of coffee in the morning? Is it ethics that drives your purchasing decision? Or taste? You just have one brand of coffee you love. So let's have a show of hands for A. Cost? You just buy cheap? Good man.
Good man. Thank you. Thank you for taking part.
Convenience. Who only buys instant? Yeah, you see, coffee drinking's got easier. It's easier to buy fancy coffee these days. What about ethics? We've got fair trade buyers in the room. Quite a few, and that's going to be very relevant in a minute. And who buys on taste? Wow. Connoisseurs. I bet 30 years ago we'd do that about tea. Fantastic.
I don't think we'd have got that interaction on that. I don't think
that was good. You couldn't see it, but it was really good. We can take exactly the same question and ask it a different way in a different sector. So in the last infrastructure project that was delivered that involved some ironmongery, manhole covers and drain covers, say it's a local authority buyer and it's a highway scheme. What do you think drove the project team to specify and select the ironmongery that was used? Same question. Was it cost? Is it about price for the consumer? Was it about convenience? Let's be honest, the main contractor picked which ironmongery was used. Was it ethics? Did your client say, I only want British Seal, save that firm? Or is it taste? Do people have really specific passion about a particular gully cover? Let's have a show of hands for cost. Yeah. Convenience? I think those two things are often the same, personally, but ethics? Interesting, there are some, which is good to see. And taste? Yeah, a few.
It's good to have passions and hobbies.
Good. What that tells you is that purchasing of ironmongery is nuanced. It's not as straightforward as just cheap, although cheap is a massive influence. And that leads me towards a little case study for you. The world of digital and innovation is not limited to our sector, and actually we've been criticised by government for not adopting fast enough and not taking the productivity opportunities on offer. And I want to give you a case study from the retail world. Provenance is a social enterprise business. It's an e-startup based in London, and they are all about supply chain transparency. Their challenge, and the challenge that they brought to Co-op as a client, was in the food retail sector, and the world of food is one of a lot of noisy claims. You walk the food shelves and you'll see 100 brands selling 100 different things, value and openness and transparency. Claims, we grow fair trade crops, we grow organic crops. The Co-op is a brand that prides itself on that openness and honesty. That's part of what they're about. And what they wanted to do with Provenance was to empower their customers with information. So the solution in this context is about passporting produce. It's about being able to track digitally the produce that's sold in a supermarket and track it in real times and be able to evidence and prove the claims made about that item. And it's from source to shelf, and it's about the social and environmental value of what's being purchased. So what you end up with in Co-op, in their pilot schemes, is the ability for a customer to walk into store, to scan a product using their iPhone on shelf, and to be able to know where it was grown, when it was harvested, which farmer grew it, how it was transported to store, and the use-by date of that product on an app from a barcode. And that's real time and it's live. And the information gathered was from 15 different digital sources and validated by the Provenance app. It's an incredible experience to be a customer with that much buying knowledge in your fingertips. Provenance is based on blockchain. And at that point, 3/4 of the room glaze over and the other quarter go, a bit more, please. Is anybody in the room genuinely claiming to be a blockchain expert? I'm not putting my hand up either. Blockchain is a distributed ledger. It's a methodology for validating transactions and claims. Basically, you know something is true because you have part of the answer, but so does 15 other people, and you're able to bring that together through big maths, I suppose is one way of describing it. I could do a whole nother discussion about blockchain, which would span 3 hours, and we still wouldn't claim to be experts because it is genuinely hard technology. But it is real, it is happening, and consumer apps like Provenance are using it to demonstrate real facts for people. And they've used that ability to be transparent about claims to give that information to the consumer in their hands. And that's quite a demonstrated use case for a really innovative piece of technology. And where that takes me is that our customers, the customers of our industry, often have their best digital experiences elsewhere in their lives than in our hands during projects with us in our industry. And that shouldn't be the case. To be honest, I feel really fraudulent saying that and sharing this stage with this group of people, but it's true. I paid for my coffee at Starbucks this morning without touching anything. I just waved my card at a till. I have now seen physically in front of me a foldable touchscreen smartphone. And my son goes out on a Saturday, walks the streets chasing dinosaurs, AR dinosaurs that are running around the park in Leicester. Our industry is changing, we are innovating, but in a world where AR dinosaurs run around a park, in a world where I can pay for the things with witchcraft at tills, our clients are going to expect us to do better. They expect a paradigm shift from us. They deserve more from us. And I think coming from a local authority background, it's really hard to secure the scale of innovation that our industry needs to make. One client can't do that on their own, but as an industry, we can make this happen. And that's what our partnership at Scape with Balfour Beatty is all about trying to enrich the digital experience for clients and deliver some of this innovation into their hands now, not in 15 years' time. So we're creating a minimal digital standard in our frameworks, and we're evolving that and developing that with Balfour Beatty. It's about saying to every infrastructure client, not just Tideway, not just Crossrail, every client of every road scheme in the country, we can set a higher standard, we can deliver this change together. What does that mean in practice? Ultimately, we want greater productivity and efficiency in our projects. We want the insight to improve delivery. We've talked about that already this morning. Performance needs to be as transparent as provenance. I want to know where my aggregates were produced. I want to know where the rare earth materials were mined that go into my traffic light digitals. Ultimately, I want delighted clients, and we all want higher throughput. We want profitability. We want success for everybody in the industry. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Another question for us. So, what is going to be the biggest change in construction in the next 4 years? So the options are robotic automation, artificial intelligence, process automation, and augmented reality, which we've seen an example of just now. Let's go for A. Who thinks it's going to be robotic automation? Biggest change in the next 4 years. Okay, so this is a 3 or 4. Artificial intelligence. Oh, okay, moved about 50%. Process automation. Right, okay, sort of 50-50 there. Augmented reality. Okay, interesting sense of the room. So, yeah, and do you know what? We don't know. We don't have the answer for you, but actually it's interesting, and our thoughts will be, maybe we'll approach that again in the Q&A. So we're in a partnership with Scape. It's on the civil engineering and infrastructure, single supply framework mainly to local authorities. And our aim, as Chris said, is to make all of the digital sort of the innovation that's happening on those massive schemes available to everyone: customers, stakeholders, supply chain, designers, local architects, local businesses, because by everyone working in that environment, getting it to a cost point where it's just easy enables everybody to improve every day, because we need 70% of us to still be in the now. We can't just run off into the future. If 70% are not spending their time in the now, then we aren't going to keep ourselves going. We're not going to keep the money coming through the door. So incremental improvements in the now is hugely important. In the near, love it. Fiber optics. That's in the near, I say, but it's it's trialing, isn't it? So it's getting into the now. When that becomes now, what's the next thing? And that's the stuff, the 10%. So 70, 20, 10. 10% of what we're doing should be some really super future stuff that's, really clever, but it's got to make its way through. We can't all spend our time here in potentially AR when actually we just need some process automation to help us get from near into the now. So what we're going to do is spend some time just talking about what that means from a practical point of view. So we've broken down what we think digital is. I mean, digital just seems to be synonymous with many other things. It's synonymous with productivity. When people talk about productivity, they're generally talking about digital. Why? Because we just see digital happening elsewhere and we think, God, those businesses have done well with it. So if we do a bit of digital, we'll be all right. Actually, we won't be all right unless we apply it with purpose. We have to innovate with purpose. So we are breaking down to 4 streams. We have to collaborate. We have to collaborate in the virtual world. We have to share documentation and be transparent. Absolutely. Data. So if we are collaborating and we're sharing what we do, we're grabbing more data. Data is absolutely key to us. It was expressed very much by Lord Mayor earlier on. If we've got data, that allows us to automate. That allows our processes to start to talk to each other and things to happen without us being involved. It's a bit scary, but actually it's good. And therefore, once we've got automation, we need to support that with great technology. So let's just talk about or show what you can do with data. And this is just the now, right? So you should expect, working on any particular infrastructure project in the UK right now, that all your reporting is automated. You should not have to ask for a customer or your contractor, to provide a report to you that you then have to manipulate because you've got stakeholders to manage in your organization. It should be the same piece of data that provides the same level of reporting throughout the organizations that are working. And that data is coming from supply chain, from customers, all the way through, whether it be quality scores, whether it be program information. It's all there for us to grab. Simply, should we be doing it or not? And in Balfour Beatty, that's exactly what we're doing. Take that to the next step and say, what's in the near? And this is a bit like the fiber optics. I won't say it's in the now yet because it's not happening everywhere. But actually, the exam question on this particular example is, how much is in that stockpile? Because we need to move it. Yeah, we do that all over the country. And if you've heard of photogrammetry, it's not particularly new technology. Google Street View uses exactly the same thing, and that's been around for years. But actually, the traditional way, should I say, of doing that, still happening now, is we have to ask people to go to site and we have to survey it. And that involves method statement, risk assessment, people-plant interface, issues with health and safety, putting people at risk. That person is the owner of that data. That person, until they do the processing for you, you cannot use it. Actually, if you were to go near site, fly a drone, drones are not the answer to everything, although they come up in a lot of conversation. Take about 70 photographs, it takes you 5 minutes, and send that data to the cloud. That data's in the cloud. As soon as it gets to the cloud, it's processed for you. One, the surveyor can be off surveying other things, or taking more photographs with the drone. That data becomes instantly available. We call it democratization of data. So it's instantly available to the project manager. It's instantly available to the quantity surveyor. It's instantly available to the supply chain. So the person that's going to come and do that, so they can go into this free piece of software and it tells them how much is in it. We do that tomorrow, we know how much they've shifted. We don't have to pay by truck movements anymore. We pay by capacity and we can pay instantly. Just like when you pay for your Amazon orders. This stuff is out there, so I think that's in the now, near moving very much into the now. And that shouldn't just be for HS2 or whatever, it should be for everyone. And where does that go? So my view is that the blockers to adoption of technology in digital are the interfaces. It's still tricky. It's still a cost. We don't all know how to use Revit. We don't all know how to dive deep into AutoCAD or Autodesk software. We have to change how we interface with it. We have to fundamentally change how we work with our designs and our models. Hi, Greg. So this is really about how we suddenly put ourselves in an immersive environment and come to our stand 5, where we can talk through what we're doing here. Because when you put people together in the same space, looking at the same thing, collaborating, but they might be in different places in the world, decisions start to happen really quickly. And if people can work together, we can make the process of getting from I had an idea for a piece of infrastructure to I've got that infrastructure shorter, quicker, more effective, defect-free by collaborating brilliantly in this space.
Thanks, Andy. We asked Andy to inspire us with some quite visual, direct examples of where technology is pushing the boundaries and is in Balfour Beatty's real-world delivery. And you've seen that. Where we're coming from as a partnership is recognising that we're only going to get the value for clients if we work in partnership. It was really interesting listening to Anglian Water's partnership philosophy and embedding apprenticeships. That philosophy cuts across into our framework relationships, and it's how we get this innovation to clients at a smaller scale than just the mega projects. What we're about as a team is managing and harnessing relevant and useful data, creating efficiency and productivity in what we do. And we're aiming to do that across all of the services we provide, but it should be what we're aiming to do together as an industry. And we have 5 core principles through which we're going to do that, which we'd just like to take you through because they're a useful reference to our philosophy on change. And we start with co-production. So this is only going to work, and collaboration only works if everybody's signed up to it. And the reality of digital is a successful digital infrastructure, a successful digital asset in the future is only going to work if we co-produce it. And that means every part of the supply chain, from client to the smallest SME provider, providing digital content and sharing its production. That's a core principle. And it means you have to look at the use of data differently. You have to take the barriers away. And large-scale partnerships enable us to do that by being long-term and thinking in that way.
We have to communicate the value of data. I think that's really important because at the moment, a lot of data is in a site office or it's in someone's C drive or in their email, which is the best filing system to unable to be accessed from anyone else. You know, we have to really change the way and understand that what that is, really speak to people about what they want from it so we can all understand and provide that one source of data that's used multiple times.
That goes all the way through. Our politicians need to be contributing to the information decisions that we're making on our projects. If we don't know what they want from data on the project, we're not doing it right because they're going to fund the projects. And that's an important concept. Everybody in the supply chain has some ownership. It's that democratization point. Capturing high quality data is obviously important, but so is capturing it when it's easiest. And this is something I think as an industry we're really, really guilty of doing badly at the moment. We don't take the opportunity to grab the information we need as a collective at the right moment in a project, in a survey, as an asset manager. And that's something that we've got to think harder about. Is the site manager on Balfour Beatty's site actually the best placed person to record social value on a contract for me as client, buyer? They probably are, because they're the ones signing the local labour onto the site. They're the ones recording which postcode that site worker came from. And there's a whole plethora of examples that we could use, from when is it easier to manage the deterioration of a bridge through to when is it easier to measure the volumes of aggregates on a site. You have to give it to the right person to do, because that's when it's most efficient. But you also have to have it captured in the right format for that whole audience. That principle of co-production and communicating who needs what. If you're going to do that, you have to have it useful for all parties and you have to be able to make that data available.
Yeah, and I think hopefully this has come through that we share it. We share it quickly. We make it available to everyone, and hopefully we demonstrated through some of those videos about how we're doing that. You know, it means being transparent, which means we have to have trust. It's hugely important. And I think what digital does is it blurs the boundaries between traditional silos. And that's going to happen to us regardless of whether we like it or not. So we just better, in my view, we just better embrace it and get on with it. And therefore, as we share the data, we're all using it and we're all becoming more efficient. We don't have enough people to deliver the work that we need to do. So let's become more efficient as rapidly as possible by sharing our data.
And that's not just BIM. That's grabbing key performance data out of a contract using an electronic signature system. It's not just high-end, high-cost production stuff. It's the simple stuff. We've got to get more clever about digital in a simpler way. I think we, as an industry, we're guilty of, partly because of the BIM regulations, pitching for the hardest bit first And we're actually not doing basic information management very well in this industry at all. So automation wherever possible is our final point. And that comes from good data. It comes from transparent data. But when you know what everybody needs, you can give it to the right person at the right time as soon as you can through automation. It doesn't have to be scary. It can be as simple as transferring a file from one person to another and having that routine set up. Again, it's about collaboration, visibility.
Yeah, automate the boring stuff, right? We use our brains for the exciting stuff. So we thought we'd ask one last question. So thinking about your current projects or where you are, the things you're thinking about procuring, quite simply, will this use of technology, the stuff you've seen, the principles we've talked about, will it make your work life easier? If it's a yes, put your hands up. Nearly everyone. I'm going to go for everyone because you can't see. 100%. Brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, we're at stand 5. You can come meet us, talk to us after, and speak to the rest of the team. Thank you very much.
Thank you.